Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
Over the weekend, a new movie dropped on Disney+, and that is Prey. It's a prequel to the original Predator movie released in 1987, starring Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Followed a group of tough-as-nails mercenaries sent to Central America to hunt down some missing dignitaries,
Missing politicians.
That's one of the two. Only to have their numbers thinned by an unseen assailant, an extraterrestrial hunter. And we've had a number of Predator movies over the years. We've had Predator 2 with Danny Glover. We've had The Predator.
Predators, directed by... by... Name escapes me. We've talked about him a lot on the show. Robert Rodriguez.
Story by, that was, he did the story for the 2010 one. Rodriguez did.
Yeah.
Of Sin City and Book of Boba Fett fame. That was an interesting film because it was one of the few films that actually has a main character with my name. Adrian Brody was called Royce. It's kind of...
They gave it the Aliens treatment by just putting on an S at the end.
Yes. It was an interesting film. It was in many regards like a remake of the original. Like they sort of changed the context a bit. Like there's a bit of a twist which is revealed within the first act, where you kind of find out that, you know, this jungle setting they're in isn't quite what it seems. And yeah, by adding the S, suggests more predators and we get even more, sort of increasing the roster.
Pretty much. And then finally, most recently, we had a fourth film added to the series, which was directed by Shane Black, one of the original actors from the first film, The Predator.
He kind of impressed through the 2000s with his directing. He did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer. He also directed Iron Man 3, which is one of the more divisive films of that series.
Yes.
And I've not seen that one because I didn't hear very good things. But you have you?
Yeah. Like with Star Wars, I think you have to embrace the good and the bad, but be ready to acknowledge, that one was crap.
Really?
A lot of big ideas that didn't quite make it to the final cut, I'm afraid.
I did hear that there was an actor who was accused of some inappropriate behaviour who played such an integral role in the film they had to be cut out entirely, leading to quite a significant plot hole.
I did not hear that. I know of part of the original script where it was meant to be a team-up movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Eventually, it was meant to sort of build on a prior conflict that had been set up in Predators with the two subspecies of the Yachwa, what the Predators are actually called, where the non-genetically altered Yachwa would team up with the humans to take on this super predator, as they called it.
That sounds familiar now you say that, yeah. But yeah, that film didn't do too well.
No.
We got a follow-up. It's sort of following in the tradition of Terminator movies. You know, that was a big Arnold Schwarzenegger-led series. And I mean, it's only the first Predator film where we had Schwarzenegger, but he sort of...
He did return to reprise his role as Dutch in the video game Predator Hunting Grounds.
Oh, right. When did that come out?
A few years back for the PlayStation. PlayStation 4, he reprised his role as both young Dutch and old Dutch. Apparently, Dutch's story continues well past Predator.
But on to Prey now, which is the new movie, which is available to watch completely free on Disney Plus because I guess it was part of the Fox brand, and now that Disney own Fox, they can, do with it as they please. And now they just sort of decide, any film we've got, we can just chuck on the streaming service, and it's good for us.
Unfortunately, outside of the US, outside of Australia, you have to watch it on Hulu.
Yeah. Oh, it's just fortunate here. It's all sort of rolled into one.
Yes.
Very fortunate, that one. You know, it's a good streaming service, unlike some, looking at HBO Max and Warner Brothers after all that drama from the last week.
But on to better and more awesome things. Prey came out this year, and it is directed by Dan Frachenberg.
Yeah, he directed 10 Cloverfield Lane. Have you seen that film?
No, I've been told it's one of the better Cloverfield films. He's done an episode of Black Mirror and an episode of The Boys.
Oh, right, okay. So, is that a notable episode of The Boys for you, or do you watch that show at all?
It's been a while since I've watched it. The episode came out 2 years ago.
Ah, right,
Sorry,
series
three
two,
years ago.
probably, yeah. Series one, then.
Yeah, there was only one episode. Really only got 9 credits to his name.
Yeah, Cloverfield Lane was really good, and the ending was apparently tacked on at J.J. Abrams' request, try and build some interconnected universe. It wasn't even Cloverfield related up until that point.
No, but everything's got to be connected these days, apparently.
But Prey, sorry, that's the reason why we're here. This is set
Yes.
300 years ago. It's follows
1719, pre proper colonization of North America, where it's still
yeah.
only small scroungings of French, Spanish, and English settlers.
Yeah, and it's follows a lady.
Naru, played by Amber Midthunder.
Oh, it's a fantastic name, that, Midthunder.
Most of the cast is actually of Native American origin.
Yeah, and
Which is a really good thing, seeing that the story takes place in the Comanche Nations.
it begins with some dialogue delivered in the Comanche language, and then it switches to English, and you do follow these characters and they speak in English. There is apparently a Comanche dub, but I took a look on Disney Plus and it wasn't there. I couldn't immediately see it.
The language swapping is probably one of my main gripes with the film.
Yeah?
I can forgive that the main character would swap between Comanche and English, but it's very flippant for the rest of the tribe.
Yeah.
They go between Comanche and English quite easily at a time where I don't believe the Comanche had adopted English properly.
Oh no, I
And
think it's
then-
just they're just using English to
Yeah,
for
for the
us, an
benefit of the
English-speaking
audience.
audience. Yeah, to connect
But-
with. Yeah.
Then later on, we have French trappers who have a translator, while the rest
Yeah.
only speak in French, and the subtitles does not translate it out of French into English.
Well, I didn't actually realize it was French at first. I was sort of like, because America is so divided, but you
It
had
was
different
divided
factions
by
from
3.
yeah, you
at
had
that
different
point in
countries
time.
who they had control of different portions of the country, and
You
when we
had
encounter
The
the
French
Europeans,
up
it's kind
in
of like
Canada area, the Brits in the New England region, and then the Spanish in the south.
when you encounter them, I was kind of like, I didn't pick that it was French, so I thought it was kind of an interesting decision there. It creates this fantastic sense of alienation between the character of Naru, us, the audience, and the white men who come along and sort of cause further problems for everyone.
And most of the French trappers don't actually get names; they just get nicknames.
Like I said, it created that sense of alienation, and like I said, I sort of wondered if they were speaking gibberish or something. I didn't realize it was French at first. And yeah,
Yeah.
the English language is just used here to represent Comanche, but there is the Comanche dub somewhere, but I can't find it yet on Disney Plus unless it's buried under some other setting. I think all the original actors dubbed all their lines in Comanche,
Wouldn't be
which is
surprised.
interesting. It just feels so alien because, I mean, this is sort of like a time before, your cowboys, your traditional sort of, Wild West.
The pinnacle weapon of the world is the musket. Unfortunately, while it is a deadly weapon, it takes up to 10 minutes just to get ready for your next round.
There is a bit of humour in this film, not much, but I felt that was like the most comedic moment when you have a bunch of the trappers all fire their guns and they all quickly try to reload.
Yeah, and they realize, oh crap.
Yeah.
Crap.
But yeah, it's just, there's no signs of civilization, there's no telegraph poles, there's no train lines, there's no buildings. There's just,
This is as far back as, well, for us would almost be very Stone Age-ish if it wasn't for the Europeans in the film. If it wasn't for the settlers, we wouldn't be able to tell what year this film would take place in.
well, every time a trap shows up, because I mean, there's quite a few times that characters wander into traps and it's kind of like, oh yeah, God, I mean, there's this looming threat of like the European colonizers just always on the horizon. You don't see them until well over an hour into the movie. It's almost like the alien itself is more familiar than the Europeans are. It's sort of like I felt more comfortable when the alien was on screen because I could sort of, go like, oh, this is his deal. He's got honor. He's the Predator. He's a bit of a cheater, isn't he? He's got all these gadgets and
yeah.
like he sort of resorts to like, oh, this isn't going my way. I'm just going to pull out the kill everything weapon and just get this over and done with because I can't be bothered anymore.
I do like this Predator. They're calling it the Feral. It has a different arsenal to what we're used to in the previous Predator films. We know that they would have smart discs, combi B-sticks, the iconic shoulder plasma caster, and a biomask.
They talked about how they kind of wanted, even though it's still a futuristic being, his technology is more rudimentary than the Predators we're usually familiar with. So it's sort of more like you see with his camouflage, it's not quite as sophisticated. It's not allowing him to blend in as much. And the mask as well.
Better. Oh, the mask is one of the most beautiful things. If it wasn't for the mask, I actually wouldn't have been able to tell, and this is the nerd coming out in me, what this Predator's status was in their society.
All right.
This is a unblooded Predator, which means this is its first hunt, which is why the ship didn't stay when it dropped it off.
You're saying it does tie into kind of established canon?
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. It's good to sort of have, rules in place for a creature like this, so you can kind of go do something completely new, but sort of keep that there as a backbone to build the story upon, and its interactions with the story and the other characters.
For the most part, not to mention, that's a mocap suit in the film for most of the time.
Yeah,
so
I was looking at him because
someone present.
Yeah, because they used to have a guy in a suit. It was always a really good-looking suit, but this one it was kind of like I can't tell. Is this real or is this like computer generated? It looks great.
CG,
but
it's good CG.
A lot of CGI animals as well, which is good. There's quite a lot of animal death in this.
There is. There is actually a reference to the exploitation of the native people with the scene with the buffalo. How they're skinned and just with a hole in their head.
That was... I was watching a little bit of the original Predator, and of course you've gone and got the scene where they discover all the bodies hanging upside down and they've all been skinned, so like put on
Sergeant
display.
Hopper.
It's like, it's horrific that, but then you kind of realise, it's a sort of similar thing you get with the buffalo, and that's got nothing to do with the alien itself. That's the Europeans, sort of just going through and wiping out everything they...
Well, they were doing it to harm the tribes of the region, because if you remember observing the buffalo, they only took the fur. They didn't take any other bit of the animal, while the natives would actually use all of it.
There's been quite a few films actually that have sort of delved into the Native American tribes, and you've kind of seen the significance that the American bison have to them, and I think it was probably Dances with Wolves, where you have a scene of just like a field full of dead buffalo, and it's just...
we always seem to somehow get back to Dances with Wolves when it comes to Native Americans.
I think this was better.
Yeah.
Dances with Wolves is some good fun.
I think compared to the other films, this one definitely has some better characterizations.
Oh yeah, this is a very short movie as well. Like it's 100 minutes with
over
credits.
90 minutes.
Yeah, but the fact that the characters of Naru and her brother,
that would be Tabe.
The actor's name was Dakota Beavers.
Yes.
It's a great, strong name, that one. You could just feel, like, the character, and such brutality as well.
Oh, the fights are visceral, and you feel nearly every blow. But even when it's just the humans versus, say, a mountain lion.
Oh, even just the humans themselves. Like, there was her brother's friend who has to fight with Naru, and it's like they're properly laying into each other, and she's like biting him and like tearing into his leg, and it's like, oh jeez. And yeah, that mountain lion, God, that was scary. But I think the scene that really made my jaw drop was the one with the bear.
Oh, the bear.
Yeah, it's a bloody good looking bear.
It is.
It's CGI as well, and then the Predator and it face off against each other, but the Predator's camouflaged, and you just see the flash of the green blood and then the red blood, and
you just see
the visuals.
Something punching this bear, like this outline going toe to toe with this giant grizzly. Then next thing you know, it just lifts it over its head, blood oozing down,
when that
So,
happened, it was like,
oh,
this is a horror film. And
there's the
there were a few
Predator, I
cheap
know.
moments. It's kind of, I think it's a bit cheap when you get movies that use like jump scare musical cues to like enhance it, and you get a bit of that at the beginning of this film, but as it goes on, it's just like it's the absence of music, or the music is just there sort of underscoring it. It's not making a big deal, and the visuals just sort of speak for themselves.
It
Yeah.
really does play to how otherworldly this creature is. Not to mention, throughout the film, we're actually shown scenes of prey predator of the native life of Earth, like a field mouse eating an ant, the field mouse then being eaten by a rattlesnake, a wolf stalking a rabbit, a bear about to kill this poor Native American girl.
Yeah, it's funny. You have quite a few scenes, like action scenes, where it's literally just a wolf, or maybe it was a coyote. I don't know. It was one of the two,
Well, it
facing
would have
off
been a
against like
wolf.
an invisible foe. A surprising amount of tension where it's just a hare being chased by a wolf.
You just feel it
It's very visceral and very bloody, very gory.
that it is.
But is it any good? Did you enjoy this movie?
I we've been waffling on about all these different things. I honestly have put this in my top 3 Predator films, which is kind of not very hard to say, seeing that there's only 5 films now. But the fact that I'm able to say that, yes, this is one of my top 3 Predator films, almost beat out the first film for the
Yeah,
top spot.
I think I might rank it as good as the first one, because it's a very different movie though.
This one goes back to what Predator was, an action thriller with horror elements in it.
It surprised me
is
because I was watching Prey and thinking like, oh, you're sort of giving away the fact that this is an extraterrestrial being. I mean, of course, it's the 5th film in the series, or 7th if you count the AVP movies, which we're not. Um,
no,
but this is something that's been around for like 35 years, so
yeah,
it's not a secret that the Predator is an alien. It's an alien hunter. It's I was sort of like, oh come on, you don't want to show all that, but then you go watch the original, and literally the opening shot is a spaceship flying to Earth and dropping something off into the atmosphere. 20 minutes in, you're sort of getting the heat vision and the stalking monster, and yeah, it picks up from there.
I think this film's saving grace is that it doesn't use the other films as a crutch. Many movies nowadays will reference previous films if they were, really enjoyable or if they were memorable. And then they'll use them as a crutch, like with blatant referencing or going a little bit too overt to point out that these ones sort of fit into the mold. However, this one references it only in passing fancy.
Yeah, you do have the line, if it bleeds, we can kill it, which is, it's kind of a moment of realization in the original movie when that line is said. It's kind of these soldiers who they're at the top of their game, but they just sort of stand there and fire
They've
untold
been getting
amounts of ammo
knocked off
into
one by one.
Yeah. So they're getting pushed beyond limits, and once they kind of realize that this thing, whatever it is that's pursuing them, can actually be harmed, they realize, hey, we have a chance here. We can get out of this.
Precisely.
It's used in a similar context in this new one, but it is kind of like a bit like it's word for word, and it's like, oh, okay. But
But
sure,
it's not
it
a
works
direct wink to the audience. It's a, yeah, this is a realization of we can kill this thing.
every Terminator film, it's gone and got like, come with me if you want to live.
I'll be back. Hasta la vista, baby.
Dark Fate, as much as I like that movie, I haven't seen it since it came out, but it was one of the first films we reviewed on the show. It's like they want to have a come with me if you want to live moment, but they like run it through the thesaurus. So it's like they come up with with words that kind of mean the same thing, but don't exactly say the same words. You're going to be dead in the next 30 seconds if you don't come with me right now. It's like when Amazing Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, and it's like, if you have the power to do this thing, you need to do your utmost best to ensure that you use that power to your full potential. Yeah.
Oy vey, yeah, that did happen.
It did happen, yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's you do have a bit of a reference to Predator 2, don't you? With a certain item.
Yes, with the flintlock at the end. Well, not at the end, but the pistol that's handed from the French translator to Naru as a way of her helping him survive his grievous wound, and
God,
then
yes,
getting a new take on the coldness tricking biomask.
Yeah, it's similar things, but it's done in a different way, because you kind of have a scene with a bog earlier on in the movie, and you kind of go, "Oh yeah, that's going to come back later," because you saw it in 2010.
It comes back, but it doesn't come back in the way that we think it is.
Exactly. Whereas 2010's Predator was literally just like a beat for beat remake. I mean, you got Adrian Brody there, like rippling muscles, shirtless in the mud and the rain, just like Arnold was at the end of the first film.
Yep.
Very direct. It's like
also one of the few films we don't actually get to see through the Predator's eyes without the biomask on.
Yeah, was that a trick that was in the old ones?
Yes. So in the first one, when the Predator takes off the biomask, we do get a POV of what it sees, which is like this weird red spectrum. I don't believe that they did it again in Predator 2. I think they did it in Predators, and they did something similar in The Predator. Mind you, that one didn't actually wear a biomask.
Oh, right.
Or at least one of them didn't wear a biomask.
I appreciated as well that they were willing to change up the design of the creature. It's completely unique to other ones we've seen before. It's another
subspecies. And it's gorgeous looking, as hideous as it is.
Not quite as ugly as the original, though, I don't think.
Yeah, I'll give it that one. It's a lot more
I do remember there's the makeup and performer guy, Carrie Jones, who played Black Chrysanthemum in the Book of Boba Fett, played one of the bigger predators in the 2010 film.
Yes.
I remember they had giant tusks, and they were like, they're huge.
It wasn't Mr.
Monstrous
Black.
things.
Yeah, he was the hound keeper. Yes, Tusk.
Yeah. But this one, it's almost like a different subspecies. Like you said, it's sort of. I mean, it makes sense. Not all humans look the same. Not all monsters look the same. But it feels like it's more than just adding some extra horns onto the base design, which we've sort of had for 35 years.
Pretty much, or just changing up how the pigmentation is on the skin.
Yeah, I noticed he had like spots on him, like a leopard.
Yes.
But no fishnet stockings this time.
No, not on this one. That must be an adult Predator thing.
I was just looking around, yesterday after I saw the film, and I kind of saw a mention on IMDb that there was a fan film that came out in 2019 of a similar sort of premise, and it's on YouTube.
Yes, that's the medieval one, isn't it?
No, it's a Native American woman.
Oh.
Yeah, literally a Native American woman with like the same sort of black stripe across her face. Not exactly the same. And I can't say as to whether, it's a Native American actress, but she fights two predators in a cave, and you go down to the credits. I mean, you go down to the comments, and of course, you go down to YouTube comments, and they're all a bunch of morons. But this is just like, you should sue 20th Century Fox, you should sue Disney, and it's like, right, a fan filmmaker who's made this, admittedly all right, pretty good fan film, is going to claim that it's a good movie.
Yes. Yeah, I see the one you're talking about.
Yeah, Predator Warrior or Warrior Predator, one of those two.
Yeah, Warrior Predator.
Yeah, it's interesting, for a fan film. But, you can just tell it's a bunch of ladies dressed in Predator gear beating up another lady, or a Native American. A First Nations lady.
No, there's a few fan films out there. Probably one of the best that rates up there came out 7 years ago, and that is Predator Dark Ages.
Oh, right, yeah. Because I know the Predator Dark Knight one, which was a strange crossover from the comics.
Yes. Dark Ages is a bit of a good watch.
I remember, though, Kevin Smith recommended that Batman one, and I watched it thinking, like, because he says, it's one of the greatest Batman short films ever made, and you're watching it and then the Predator shows up, and you're like, oh, right, okay. Right. That's what we're doing. All this talk and we haven't spoken about the dog either.
No, the lovely dog. So good.
It's apparently a Carolina dog, which is like an American dingo.
Oh.
Which I didn't know were a thing. But yeah, it looks like a dingo. Apparently it was like completely feral and untrained, so it just did what it wanted. It's remarkable it worked as well as it did.
Considering.
That's our thoughts on the movie Prey, which is on Disney+. Stars Amber Midthunder, who... She's been in a bunch of things, but I remember a few years ago from Legion, which was the X-Men show. And her character on that was like really unusual. And yeah, it's very different. I remember when you're telling me this, kind of setting a film like this in a historical age, which hasn't really been explored fully in film and action movies. I mean, it turned out great.
I think this may actually be the future for the franchise. Going backwards or choosing different moments in history rather than sticking to the recent 20th century.
What's another historical setting you'd like to see explored?
I actually wouldn't mind seeing a full-fledged version of Dark Ages, 11th, 13th century. These things are attracted to heat, so I wouldn't mind seeing it pop up during the Crusades.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, kind of set it in the Middle East,
Or have it set somewhere in South Africa during colonization, in the scramble for Africa.
I can see that being a very similar movie to what we've just got, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I was more looking along the lines of like a little homage to Zulu.
Oh yeah.
But you're right, it would be very similar, very similar. I've had a couple spring into my mind over the last couple of years. One would be Edo, Japan, or at least Warring States, Japan.
The sword, and you can have some sword fighting, because the Predator's got some swords.
A lot of sword fighting there. Or one based from a concept from a comic, exiled Predator in Polynesia off the coast of New Zealand.
I was just thinking that, and have Telma Morrison there and waving about his club. Why not?
My money is on Tamira getting in the suit, getting in the Predator suit, not being the human. I don't think he'll pass up the chance.
A very short Predator.
Very short Predator.
We talked about the movie Prey, which is new on Disney+. It's available to watch for free if you have Disney+ within Australia. It's a prequel spin-off to the Predator movies, so if you sort of want to see those movies taking on a different angle, it's worth checking out.
Absolutely.
I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
And we'll see you next time.